Okay, so the big story everyone wants to talk about, of course, is the ballot initiative to end marijuana sales, to end recreational cannabis sales in Massachusetts as we know it. So let's start with this. Here's what I wrote on LinkedIn, which is, for those who don't know, it's a place that's actually, believe it or not, a place I never thought I'd be, but is very friendly to cannabis and cannabis industry people. I wrote, for anyone who gets a feed of every cannabis headline or a Google alert, you're probably noticing how outlets are absolutely salivating over this stupid Massachusetts ballot measure story. We were among the first at Talking Joint's Memo to cover this ridiculous prohibitionist proposal, so I can tell you that the hype is real and that interest is high. That's because despite being a big, juicy nothing burger, the traffic mongers and the inevitable aggregation snowball effect have made it one of the biggest mass cannabis stories of 2025. And why is it sticking? Why is it everywhere? Don't overthink it. The reason is that weed is still stigmatized and treated like a joke by most media, and they love pointing and laughing and fanning the flames when there's fire. In this case, it's a few state GOP operatives wielding a blowtorch, but I'll get to that in a second. It's garbage, gossipy reporting from publications that can't bother to cover more difficult stories on topics like lab testing. It kind of reminds me of when the first gay divorces started happening. The media was so happy to point and say, "Oh, look, it's it basically saying it. We knew it would fail. Shouldn't have happened in the first place." That's what's happening with weed here, as far as I see it. So that's what I wrote the other day. But fast forward to yesterday, which is Wednesday, September 3rd, and the Attorney General of Massachusetts, Andrea Campbell, approved the language for two ballot initiatives that could basically end adult use sales. Now, of course, there's a long way to go, and I'll get to the specifics of what has to happen from here, but this is a big topic, and whereas a couple days ago I would have said totally stupid, just prohibitionists being prohibitionists, and move on, move on with your day. I don't know if we can do that anymore. On Wednesday, yesterday, AG Campbell announced that 44 of 47 initiative petitions filed with her office are eligible to appear on the statewide ballot. And like I said, that includes two referendums. They're very similar, that aim to eliminate adult use cannabis commerce in the Bay State. The proposed weed-related changes to essentially kill recreational sales and, warp the Bay State back to medical-only days with tighter rules, kind of like a totalitarian cannabis Gilead, made national headlines. It's all over the place. Many close industry and mass politics watchers, including me, like I said, felt the coverage was overblown. But, now the prohibitionists are one step closer to the finish line. I'm not so sure that voters can be trusted. Don't forget, we're in Massachusetts. People, have a history of being duped. Some of you may remember nurses rallying to defeat the maximum limit on the number of patients they can be assigned, or last year when restaurant servers took the side of the bar and grill owners who use and abuse them over their own better longer-term interests. But that aside. So, as for the Massachusetts marijuana ballot measure, so there's two questions, okay? We say they're both basically loaded shotguns aimed directly for the adult use industry. According to the first, the initiative petition for a law relative to regulating marijuana, cutely billed as an act to restore a sensible marijuana policy. Its purpose is to, ready for this? Here's the language. Here's their language. Modify the criteria for the legal possession, distribution, and use of marijuana by continuing the medical program with new potency limitations. So we don't even get to have medical as we have it under this proposal. Ensuring that the simple possession of 1 ounce or less by people 21 over is not punishable by civil or criminal penalties. Basically, you'll still have decriminalized cannabis up to an ounce, and then between 1 and 2 ounces is a civil penalty. And then they also repeal all of the part of the law that gives us adult use dispensaries as we know it. So basically there would still be medical dispensaries with some new rules, while everything else that, everyone from politicians to activists to entrepreneurs have worked years for gets burned to the fucking ground, okay? The measure would also repeal the right to cultivate cannabis at home. So also under the proposed law, the other version of the law, individuals 21 years of age and older would be allowed to possess up to an ounce, not more than 5 grams of which can be concentrates as defined under certain terms. So basically, the difference between the two proposals, and we'll see what happens from here if they combine them or just probably, I think they'll just go with one of them, is the how the medical program is affected. So they basically would both get rid of adult use, and then one would have stricter limits on what you can have for medical cannabis. Now, who's behind these proposals? Well, surprise, surprise, the main proponent and multiple original petition signers listed on the anti-cannabis proposal are district committee members of the state Republican Party, also known as the Mass GOP, Prohibitionists galore. The proponent, her name's Caroline Cunningham. She also served as the general consultant for the campaign against Question 4 to legalize and regulate psychedelics in Mass. Of course, that campaign went down in flames. I wouldn't say necessarily because of the opposition, but it didn't help. The campaign was a total disaster. It didn't even stand up when opponents and prohibitionists said demonstrably untrue things about psychedelics and plant medicine. Based on that note, if cannabis advocates are wondering if they should be concerned about a repeal measure, they should probably ask psychedelic advocates how sitting around and doing jack shit while their opponents trash them from town halls to airwaves statewide worked out for them. But basically, so Cunningham filed 2 similar versions of this no-holds-barred act to restore sensible marijuana policy, with, one sets new stricter potency limits for the resulting medical program, like I said. And now with the petitions approved by the AG, backers have to gather, ready for this, nearly 75,000 signatures to advance to the next review. Now, if those are approved and the measures placed on the ballot and supported by voters in November 2026, the new law would take effect January 1st, 2028, though, of course, as they are known to do, lawmakers will probably reshape it to their own liking. But the point here is, this is a real thing. Sure, maybe it's being covered by media that just loves saying, "Hey, look, you might lose your weed," and because they never gave a shit in the first place, they don't get advertising dollars from it. It's their social circle is the people who are on television news, presumably still sipping martinis and bougie. Regardless, I guess I don't have to resort to name calling. At this juncture, I don't see anything like this passing, but like I said, Massachusetts people are weird. The Cannabis Control Commission is not in good shape right now. Just huge controversies, disasters. You bet your ass that these people who are pushing these measures are going to be using that. They're going to be saying, look, the CCC is out of control. There's problems with everything from lab testing to major infighting. And now, as you'll see in our other coverage, the ousted Cannabis Control Commission chair, Shannon O'Brien, is able to return to work, although, of course, there's also a fight over that. So just a huge mess, and it basically comes at a perfect time for these prohibitionists to come and tell the people of Massachusetts, hey, this is a mess. We need to get rid of this program. We'll still have medical, so that's their plan. And they don't give a shit about medical cannabis patients. You can believe that. This is something much different. They are they're just using that because clearly, if they were to say we want to get rid of everything, that wouldn't poll as well. So with that said, let's see what happens from here. But now it's a real story, so we'll be covering it. Check it out, talkingjointsmemo.com. Got a brand new story up today. Peace.